everybody, and welcome to the Arrow Opinion. Now, of course, I'm LazyDude99, and I'm here to talk about the new TV show that's on the CW, Arrow, which is basically a TV show about the superhero Green Arrow. So, I was kind of looking forward to this. I didn't know too much about it. I looked at some of the stuff that they had for this show, and I thought, well, that looks kind of cool. And so I was going into it, and I was kind of not knowing what to expect, and not sure how about I feel of this show. Now, bear in mind, it is the first episode, and it's really hard to get a handle on how a series is going to turn out on the first episode, because, like, the first few episodes of Young Justice I didn't like. I thought it was pretty lame, but I stuck with it, and eventually, not only did I end up loving that series, but those older episodes made sense in the long run. Those older episodes, which look not stupid, but kind of silly, they made sense over the long run over what happens later on in the series. This, it's only the first episode, but I'm not really sure how I feel. I'm going to get the first big thing out of the way. Well, of course, I'll just quickly go over the story. But the story, of course, is the story of Oliver Queen. He's been away on an island for 5 years, shipwrecked, surviving on his wits and honing his skills on there just to survive for 5 years. So he goes home. And he has in mind a mission and a purpose that we get hints of why he's wanting to do this. We get stuff on that told and hints of it thrown out. And so he decides to dress up in a costume with a hood and attack the city's underworld and the criminals and the dirty-handed politicians or whatever, to attack them and take them down in order to make Star City a better place. So let's just start out first with the characters, and I'm going to start with Green Arrow. I don't know the guy's name who does him. I probably should have looked that up before starting. But anyway, I don't know. He's okay. I'm glad that he's not all gloomy and dark, and he's not all cracking whips every 5 seconds, but I don't know, this just doesn't fully feel like Green Arrow to me. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's just because of what he does, and, I'm just gonna get the first big complaint out of the way. Green Arrow kills people. What is it with, TV shows? Do they not think that if they're making a TV show about a superhero, that the character has to kill people? Now, bear in mind, the people that he kills, it's all in self-defense, kind of. They're shooting at him, and there's no one that he just outright walks up to them and goes. A lot of them are shooting at them. Well, he does actually break a guy's neck who he had pinned down. But, they were still shooting at him. So he's not necessarily in the wrong. He's not like the Punisher or anything. But I'm not sure that I like that Green Arrow is killing people. And at first I was thinking, it might just be that scene. And then it'll kind of not throughout the rest of it. And then, during the final fight sequence, he pushes a guy through this glass door, and everyone thinks it's Green Arrow, so they all shoot at him. He must have known that guy was going to get shot. So he... You know what? When I see stuff like this, my comic book geek just kicks in and goes, that's not supposed to happen! Now, true. You might say Green Arrow has killed people in comic books. True, but I say that's a method of bad writing. In, Cry for Justice, when he's killed someone, that's just bad writing. The person who didn't get the character and didn't the same with the story. I'm not sure if they fully get the character. But my main biggest problem with this TV show right now, and as I say, bear in mind, it's still just the first episode, is everything kind of seems ripped off. There's a scene where, the first scene when he goes up against this, crooked millionaire, whatever, he first goes up against him in a parking garage. The lights go out, the henchmen get taken down, and then Green Arrow grabs the guy and says something to him. Like, in this, he doesn't arrest him or anything, but it felt a lot similar to Batman Begins. Yeah, it really felt really similar to Batman Begins in that respect, because it was just... He was shooting, he's got them all, then he's like, give it, and he takes him. It felt very similar to Batman Begins. And then later, in the final fight in the pilot, there's a bunch of guys in a hallway, and he takes them down. In a hallway with a scene that very, very much reminded me of Hit Girl's fight scene in Kick-Ass. Although, of course, not as violent, and Green Arrow wasn't shooting guns. But, the hallway kind of reminded me of that, and I'm not sure if the fight scenes yet look as original as they could be. That being said, this show isn't completely boring. It's keeping my attention, and the end of this show it got me a little interested. It had a twist at the end of this episode that I'm not going to spoil, but I was kind of interested in what they were going to do with that. Now, there are other problems that I really have with it, like, okay... I like how some of the serious stuff is handled. Like, when it goes to his shipwreck, it's very serious. And it's handled well, because it looks really like he really feels bad over what of that situation. And during the flashbacks, I think that was handled really well as well. I wish, personally, that we had more time of him on the island. You know what? You could almost have the very first episode just be, if this was me, I would have just had the very first episode just have been him on the island and getting off. That would have been the entire first episode. You'd have flashbacks to what led him to that point during that episode. But in that first episode, for me, if I wrote this, you would just see more just of him surviving. And I think it would have been better to go the comics route, which would be at least I'm pretty sure this is in the comics, when a bunch of pirates go on that island and he takes them out. You could have integrated that into the episode and had flashbacks to show where he is when he started and how he is now, and have a whole episode to develop that. But, he's off the islands in the first 3 seconds or something, and there were flashbacks to what led him to that, and I think they're handled pretty well. I just would have liked more time on the island, It's just like, that's part of his origin. It's like starting an Iron Man movie with him just wearing the armor in the cave. It just starts with him wearing the armor. And it'd be like just starting the Batman movie with his parents dead. Or, I just felt that part was a little rushed. And it's a little odd that he knows how to fight and be kung fu-y all in the, in this world, because he was on an island for 5 years. Sure, he can shoot, but how does that make him learn kung fu? Was he in the Matrix as well? No, anyway. I should probably wrap up, but there's a lot of other things that I needed to say. Merlin. I'm pretty sure it's the same Merlin, because there aren't any other Merlins in Green Arrow's universe. The guy named Merlin is basically Ollie's best friend, and I know it's going to turn, but why do they need to make the villain characters know each other from long ago? The only time that ever worked was with Hush. I don't think that was a good move. I would have liked it if Merlin was just like an assassin that just ended up in Star City. Oh, they don't call it Star City. It's like Star Sam City? Or Starzan City? I don't know. I'm just like, why aren't you calling it Star City? Anywho, and so Merlin's like his best friend, I don't know, and then there's this girl called I don't know, Laura or Lorna or whatever, and we're like, okay, so I guess this is his love interest, and I guess they're not going to use Diana, or Dinah, I guess. Dinah, yeah, Diana is Wonder Woman. I guess they're not going to use Dinah. And then at the end of the episode, it turns out that Lorna or whatever her name was actually her middle name, and it is Diana. Then what was the point of not using her real name? The only people who would notice are comic book fans. And comic book fans would, and nobody else would have noticed if you just called her by her, like, whether you're going to do Black Canary later on, I don't know. I don't even care. But just not calling her by her name and then just saying her name, it just, I don't know, it reminded me of The Dark Knight Rises with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Robin. And, like, I don't know, I'm complaining a little bit about this show, but it kept my interest enough. Some of the stuff was really well done. The costume looks pretty cool. It's right now feels a little bit, it felt a little bit predictable for me, but then at the end, it did throw me for a little bit of a loop. I'm like, okay, I'm wondering what they're going to do with that. So I'm interested. I might check it out still, but they really need to address the Green Arrow killing people, because if that's something that stays consistent, that's just going to eat at me throughout the whole series. To be fair, though, the girl who does, I guess, Dinah, I'm not even sure if they're going to call her Dinah or if they're just going to call her, whatever. She's interesting. I find her character interesting enough, for a TV show. So I think I'll tune in again, but I'm not sure if I really enjoyed myself. So that's my take on the pilot of Arrow. See you around, everybody. Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel, and wait for more coming soon.